Welcome to another Carlisle Club podcast. As usual, I've got a very special guest and I have a returning guest, Jason Mordecai. Welcome back.
Thank you, Carl. Hi. I'm super high to be back.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a while since our last one, and I've listened to
Yeah.
our last one, and you mentioned something where you can go on a tangent about grab bags forever, and I thought, why not?
Yeah. Well, there's lots to pack into that bag, isn't there?
All right, so let's just remind the people who you are and what you do before we get into this, illustrious conversation.
Okay. So I my day-to-day job is I work in the security industry in a sort of semi-rural area of Johannesburg called Muldersdrift. And I've been in the business for about 22 years now. And there's a whole lot to unpack there. Uh, One-time martial arts instructor and a whole bunch of other things that went along with that, running security companies and facing the toughness of crime and the toughness of just running a business that runs super fast. And then my other side project is security advisor. I write blogs about personal safety and awareness and security as well. Occasionally been accused of making the occasional video for YouTube. So that's kind of what I do. You know, when I get out of my work clothes and I put on my spandex and leap from roof to roof.
Yeah,
I tend to do that at night.
do you change in a telephone booth because those aren't easy to come by lately.
No, like they've ruined cell phones have ruined the whole ethos of being a superhero, isn't it? I mean,
Also,
no telephone booths.
it makes it harder to get out of the matrix now as well.
Way harder. Yeah,
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 so I think they want to keep us in the matrix, and they want to eliminate superheroes. That's what they're doing with cell phones.
yeah, totally. And what's so interesting about the Matrix? I mean, like look at it today. Elon Musk bought a whole chunk of Twitter. So you've got a guy who really seems to be a good guy, but actually fits the profile of every James Bond supervillain ever known. You know, he's got incredible tech. He wants to burrow under the earth with tunnels, um, and
He's
has a
got a
really
he's got a
peculiar
he's got a very
personality.
philanthropist, persona out in public, but who knows what he does in the shadows.
Exactly, and now he's bought a chunk of the Matrix.
So, but also, if you look at the other side of it, with all of the billionaires out there, how come no one is Batman yet?
Well, exactly, and look, I mean, I've tried a part of that puzzle. I'm just not a billionaire, but I have tried to. I've definitely worn Batman insignias, and I have a Bat cave. I don't quite have a Batmobile,
Okay.
but definitely, you know, having a few billion would help, and you know, also it would be a lot easier if I had an English butler.
Don't everybody need one of those? But are you trying to
Yeah.
tell me that you have actually physically, wear your kit and just roll out and looking for crime?
Well, that's actually the fantasy of every security guy, you know. So there's a fantasy and the reality. The fun stuff is that stuff, and the reality is that you deal with shifts and labor law and angry clients and tech that fails, and you don't get a lot of chance actually to be the guy that rolls out in the dark of night looking for trouble. But yes, occasionally it's happened, and it's been a real education in its own right.
How do you differentiate, what you're doing versus these rent-a-cop vigilantes who just roll the street late at night? You call themselves, neighborhood watch police.
Yeah. And again, cell phones creep into this discussion because cell phones act as a way of amplifying that persona, so suddenly you can be on 100 groups and you can have a voice and you can tell about people about, you can have a cool picture of yourself with a skull. So you can really create a persona about yourself. And the missing link that people don't get about those people is apart from the fact that they're not professionalized and they're not geared for what happens when things go wrong. I can talk about some very real aspects of it. For example, you're going to go out and if you're about by day Fred the mechanic and by night the vigilante, will your life insurance cover you if you get taken out? So there are all these. There's a fantasy that people buy into, and then there's the reality that the pros have to deal with, which is, well, what happens if you're injured? What happens if you're killed? How will you be protected in the law if you do something wrong?
Because these people are basically just taking the law in their own hands. They're just doing what they want and they're acting like they're doing the neighborhood a favor.
Yes, and actually make the law up as they go along on some occasions. So they kind of, the law fits into what they think the world is supposed to be, or what they've fantasized. But in actual, and then there's another aspect to it. What happens when something really does go wrong and you have to face an organized and orchestrated a bad guy, and you have to do that in multiple teams, and you're not geared to do that.
What are the chances of your taser and your Jeep?
Yeah, your taser and your Jeep, or of course the obligatory pepperball gun.
Yeah,
that's not going to help you much. And then let's look at the real reality. I mean, look at the incident that happened a month or two ago with the cash and transit gang, where they even managed to shoot up a police helicopter. Do you honestly think you're really geared to go out and do that kind of stuff? And what will happen, and what will your legacy be if it goes wrong? And what will you leave behind? So I think, I just don't think, I think people are misguided, and there's a lot of ego involved in that discussion. And on the other hand, there are people that do it really, really well. So there are well-coordinated, responsible neighborhood watchers that do things in a safe way, and they have understood that their job is to be ears and eyes and not to be first responders. And they really can offer, they can do a lot of good things, and they can be there for victim support after an incident has happened, and they can be there to put a blanket around you, and they can be there to call in when they've seen something suspicious. And that's where those structures work really, really well. But the moment you get the weekend warrior cowboy types, there is a huge potential for things going awry. And I'm not actually convinced that they really do make a difference to their communities. And I like data, I like science. I like to see what's the crime before an intervention, and what does it look like after you've done an intervention. Do they really make a difference, or are they simply emotionally reacting to something that's happened around them?
And a lot of the time, it is emotional.
There's a huge difference. It's so emotional, and there's so much opinion involved in this.
Speaking of gear, right? How do you know, for instance, how do you find that sweet spot between gearing yourself up for the right situation, not being over prepared, and still be light on your feet? How do you justify that situation? You keep speaking about gearing yourself up. So how do you differentiate what you're gearing up for and where you're going for that?
Okay, so there's obviously, there's two. Here's an intersection that we've reached. You can go left or you can go right. So the one side of the intersection is, what are you going to do? How are you going to gear yourself if you are a professional policing, security, military person that is going that has a high chance of facing an armed conflict, or a first responder, and how are you going to get yourself. The second part of the intersection is, what are you going to do if you are a day-to-day person, or maybe a neighborhood watch guy, and you're going to have to live a life where you might have to face an emergency, which you kind of fall into, not because you were looking for it, or you might be going to assist someone. Those are two different levels of preparedness.
So let's say me as Kyle, right? What would you say as an average human being, day to day, innocent civilian? What would you say are crucial things, from first aid to self-defense, things that an average person in South Africa should or should not have? Like some say pepper bullets, other people keep knives, other got by baseball bats and all kinds of things. From your expertise, average civilian in your vehicle going out in the world, what would you say are some of the effective ways for the situations we might find ourselves in? I don't want to walk down the street and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger with all kinds of pepper sprays and knives and bullets and everything. But for an average civilian, what would you say are very handy things to have?
Well, look, I'm glad you brought up the Arnold Schwarzenegger image, because I want to keep safe, right? Part of keeping safe is how people visually interpret who I am.
Yeah.
So there's a tendency, especially in this day and age, and you can do this. I mean, every mall's now got these little shops where you can buy the pepper balls, and the fancy bags and the gear. You can buy that stuff. But you have to bear in mind that stuff portrays a certain image, and there's a cultural interpretation behind that image. And I'll give you an example. So quite a few years ago, we were traveling through South Africa, and we came to my car broke down in quite a small town that's got, it's got a reputation for having a fairly conservative part of the population. And anyway, so got the car to the mechanic, and he said, look, you're going to have 3 or 4 hours. So, go get yourself a meal and walk around the town, or whatever the case is. Fine. And I had recently bought myself a shirt, which in another place, which I thought was a fantastic shirt. It was a khaki shirt, and it had a whole bunch of pockets. And I love pockets because and it had Velcro, and it was just very cool.
It was a very practical shirt.
Very practical shirt, exactly. And it was 100% cotton, so it kept you cool. And it had a collar, so you could lift the collar up over your neck if you're getting sunburned. Or it ticked all the boxes of practicality. But as I walked through the town, I noticed the way people looked at me. And when I spoke to people, I noticed the way people spoke to me. Oh, wow. And I started to realize that because of the type of clothing I was wearing, I was being associated with that conservative part of that population in that town.
Oh my, okay. I see the psychology that comes with this. Yeah.
So there's a cultural message, and therefore I was part of that group, even though I'm the furthest person from that group. So I could almost feel it. I could feel the way people looked at me, with the way people spoke to me, and it made me realize that actually that's the last thing you want. Part of self-defense is not to look like the target, right? And there's a lot of value in, think of a chameleon, it blends. There's a lot of more value in being able to blend into a population and kind of look like a nondescript person that is not that isn't so easily segmented and therefore targeted.
Or you don't want to look like a tourist when you're in, in a very touristy place, like you don't know who you are,
Yeah.
For instance, I see a lot of tourists in Cape Town, and we as South Africans know that this is a scam, or these people just trying to take advantage of you. But people can see a tourist from a mile away. I'm just using a simple example from my perspective as well to fall in
Right.
with this.
Right. So now imagine you've gone off and you want to gear yourself up. So you've bought yourself this very cool bag, which is camo. And it's got all sorts of pockets and zips and little extra straps. And you've put carabiners on it and webbing and paracord, and it conveys a particular image, and it says
Yeah.
you are this kind of person. There's a higher chance that that's going to be the guy who's carrying a firearm,
Yeah.
for example. So people they can appropriate and they can make assessments about you in terms of how you are. And in the tactical world, there's this discussion about the gray man. He's the guy that he's nondescript. You don't notice him in the crowd. And there's huge value in being that person, in not being noticeable. So first of all, when I see that guy walking down the road, he's got his camo this and then his pants, his cargo pants,
Oh, yeah.
501 pants, and
Oh, yeah.
there's you're instantly segmented by somebody who's watching and looking for an opportunity, or is particularly sensitive to messages that
Come at me, bro
that
type mentality.
exactly,
I'm ready for this.
Exactly. Yeah. And that might deter some people, but on the other hand, it might attract some people. And think of the July incident that happened in South Africa last year, where you had huge volatile groups of people running through shopping malls and ripping things apart. Do you want to be, as they're looking for the target, do you want to be that guy that sticks out? Because you might find that you've not only not done yourself a favor, but you've become the singular target for that group of people.
Now I need to differentiate. Okay, cool. I am going in public. I'm perhaps just going shopping, or I'm just doing something mundane, average every day. You need to now sit and choose, am I going to dress up or not? Leave the dress up thing. When you go to a party, you go straight to the party, straight back home, and become, in your words, that gray man when you do your day-to-day groceries.
That's exactly it. So now, you want to talk about grab bags, for example. Bags throughout the world carry cultural significance and identity. There's a reason why a Gucci bag carries status. You're not buying a Gucci bag just because you want to carry your items in it. You're carrying it because you want to tell a story to people. So by the same token, I have to be aware that whatever gear I'm wearing or carrying, what story, before I even start to choose that gear, what story am I going to tell? And I want to be nondescript. And when I have to use that gear, I want it, if it's going to be in self-defense, I want it to be a huge surprise,
Okay.
I don't want to be telling people that, because I've lost the element of surprise, and I've given people a chance to prepare, react, and target me. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing about the gear is that it's preferable to have stuff that you will use in many segments or sectors of your life. So
in what way?
For example, I was reading as one does, I was reading a magazine on combat knives, because that's what people do, right?
Yeah.
And this guy, this guy, he was a Vietnam vet, and he had this story. He was sitting in the mess tent in Vietnam, eating his food, and the Viet Cong comes into the tent and attacks everyone. And the only thing he had with him was this old buck pocket knife, which he took out of his, and he took it out and he used it to defend himself. And he obviously survived the attack. And his point was that what's the best knife to carry? It's the knife that you have every day. It's the knife that you cut a block of cheese with, and you open a box with, and you cut a piece of string with, and
Yeah.
it's 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 a thing that doesn't only speak to emergencies and self-defense and crisis. It speaks to utility. It's
Yeah, you don't
something that I
need to
can use.
necessarily get one of those Rambo knives and walk around with it. This is my self-defense knife, you know?
Yeah, and it's got to be something that I could use to cut a pipe because I'm repairing my car on the side of the road, and I'm not too precious about. And it's got to be something that I can use in a whole variety of circumstances. And the reason why I say that is, if those items fulfill those criteria, you are more than likely, there's a higher chance that you'll keep them with you and you'll carry them.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay. Because, yeah, you won't carry it with you. And if you're not going to use it for something other than self-defense, I get it. I get it.
exactly. It's not going to be like that, as one does, 3 o'clock in the morning, watching the Very Mark channel, and you buy yourself
The one with the compass in it.
It's got a compass, it slices, it dices, batteries not included, and within 2 months it's at the back of the cupboard with all the other items that you bought on
Yeah,
the Home
with the
Shopping Network,
Tupperware.
right? Yes. So you don't want these things to fall into that category, because then if they're not with you, they're not useful. So there
Yeah.
must be things that speak to not one moment in your life, but your whole life. And then you can start assembling them into some kind of order, and putting them. So obviously a bag is a you need a container for these things, and we've spoken about what the bag should look like, and the size of it is very important, because again, if it's too big and too clunky, maybe I'm not going to take it with me everywhere I go.
Or if you need
Um,
something, you're going to have to scratch around and figure out which zip that I put what in.
exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So the size has got to match what is convenient for me, and I will be comfortable with taking with me wherever I go. And yes, you do want different containers, because you want to be able to segment your equipment. You want to be able to do a triage. Much in the same way that paramedics do a triage. They get to the accident scene and they say, okay, which guy doesn't need help because he's going home in a box? Which guy most needs help right now? He's got to get on the helicopter and get to the hospital. Which guy can go by ambulance? Which guy can I just patch up with a bandage now and send home?
Yeah.
So in the same way, which equipment do I need to reach first? What do I need to grab absolutely right now? And I can't lose time. And that will often be self-defense equipment, because attacks usually happen suddenly, and I can't, I don't want to lose too much time scrabbling around looking for my gear. So I'll put that stuff, the stuff that I'm going to need in the shortest amount of time, will be the most accessible stuff.
Yeah.
And don't even think about this in terms of bag. Think about this as your vehicle. If you were going to have a self-defense tool in your vehicle, where would you put an item that you could reach it really, really quickly if you had
something in the door, you know?
Yeah, and not at the back of the boot, under the tire well, or in the back of your cubby hole.
Yeah.
Growing mold. So those things you're going to position which you can reach first. The things, if you need to change a tire, we're assuming you're going to need a lot more time. You've got a lot more time. There's less time. There's less time sensitiveness to the emergency than if somebody's trying to smash through your window.
Yeah.
So which items do you need to grab ASAP? And those are the things that might revolve around self-defense.
Yeah, because I know sometimes ladies got their pepper spray hanging from the side of their bags on a carabiner or something that I've seen.
Sure.
In order for them to grab that, pepper spray quickly, and before, having to open up or zip open their handbags. I've seen that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I've seen some quite nifty stuff made for ladies recently. I saw a hairpin, which you can tie your hair up with, where you pull the thing out and you've got this like wicked double spike that just fits perfectly into your hand.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's real inventive stuff, and it doesn't look like a weapon, which is
And
what's
it's
so cool about
fashionable.
it. Exactly. Yeah. So you can get that real elegant look, and then you can pickle somebody's eyeball with
You
it.
can kill them with
Um,
fashion.
exactly, which is, killing with style is an important discussion. Um, but so that would be the first thing that you would look at, and then, like, let's think of the categories of items that you need. You need you need things that will address medical emergencies. You need things that would create light. You might need things that address the need for heat. Nowadays, in the world of connectivity, you need things that can possibly recharge phones and torches and items. You might need, and we can break those items up. So as you start to assemble your kit. Try and apply a bit of imagination to it. It's not a mechanistic checkbox thing.
Yeah, and
It's
everybody's
something that
lifestyles aren't the same, So everybody's
exactly.
vehicles won't look the same. Everybody's lifestyles aren't the same. I mean, I've looked at my car the other day. For instance, I have a umbrella next to my seat on the one side. I've got a knife in my door. I've got a pepper spray in my door. At the back, I've got a first aid kit because I don't use my first aid kit a lot, but it's there in my car.
Right.
I even got a little tiny overnight bag if I have to sleep somewhere, but that's
Yeah.
according
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
my lifestyle. Other people wouldn't need half of the things I have require for.
Yes. So yeah. Let's say, for example, you're a traveling rep, and one trip takes 1,600 kilometers. You're going to equip your car very differently to the lady that drives 20 minutes to the office every day.
Yeah.
So you might get stuck on open road, but there are certain basics. Let's talk about cars, and let's talk about bags. There's certain basics that should be in every single car. You
Yeah.
want to have water. That's very important, because if you've been in a crisis, water is something that can clean you, can hydrate you. It's a multi-purpose thing. Remember that when you go into fight or flight mode, your mouth is going to get really dry,
Oh,
and
wow.
post that crisis, you're going to want water. So
I haven't
that might
even
be
thought
something.
of water. Oh my word. It's like the thing everyone needs for life.
It's quite a handy thing, water.
Damn.
or,
Okay.
or or maybe you've got a radiator that needs water.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't even think of water. I mean, Carl, you idiot.
So
Okay,
so
great.
so we pop some water in there. Obviously, you've got your normal kit, your puncture stuff and all of that. But what you
Yeah.
might want to add to that is, nowadays you can get these aerosol cans that you fit to your tire, and you can quickly inflate you've got a puncture, and it blows your tire up, and it can help you get to your place of rescue, to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
filling station where they can.
Without actually
So
having
so
to change your tire immediately. So let's say someone
and
throws spikes on the side of the road or
right.
something happens, you don't want to change your whole tire before getting to just
You're
the garage.
you're a single lady on the side of the road at 11 o'clock at night. You don't want to now start dealing with wrenches and sockets. And you want to pop that thing on, try and get that tire up, and get out of there to a place of safety. And
Mm.
they're really not that expensive. So that's something that's a must. Absolutely a first aid kit. A lot of standard first aid kits lack a little bit of stuff. So take yourself off for a walk to a pharmacy, and again, apply your imagination. A lot of first aid kits, for example, don't have burn shields.
Yeah.
And you've gone on a camping trip and somebody stood on a hot coal, or you've broken down with an overheated engine and you burnt yourself on a radiator cap. Or so you might need to go through your first aid kit and just supplement it with a few extra things. Have you got enough gloves if you're going to be assisting in an accident scene? Nowadays, we've learned that we need masks as well.
Mm. And I also think
And
another thing that comes with the first aid kit, and one thing you're mentioning right now, and I fell on my bicycle the other day. badly, like super badly. And I
Uh,
wanted my sister to clean my wound. When she opened up my first aid kit, she didn't know where anything was. And I think a
right.
lot of people just buy the first aid kit and plop it in their vehicles, but they don't familiarize themselves with what's in it and where everything is. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in what you say. And my grandfather used to tell me as a kid, the first aid kit and a toolbox has got something in common. So buying those ready-made first aid kits and toolboxes are nice, but there might be things in there that you don't use. Buy yourself a toolbox that's empty, and you buy all of the tools that you use on a day-to-day. Then you don't
Yeah.
sit with excess things that you don't use. And he said you can apply the same thing with a first aid kit. If you're not going to buy certain first aid items, if you can't even use it, I mean, if you didn't do a first aid course or anything, apply your first aid kit to your skills that you're capable of.
Absolutely. Great. Granddad knew best.
Yeah.
Although, you might find somebody else in that group that can, let's say, for example, like in the tactical world, one of the pieces of first aid equipment that people would speak about a lot is a tourniquet.
Mm.
Let's say you've been shot in the thigh, and you've got you're bleeding. You might not be able to use it, but you might find somebody else who does. So, but
Yeah.
again, hey, this is the information age. There's not one piece of equipment in that first aid kit that you can't find a tutorial on.
Put a Wi-Fi dongle in there in order for you to be able to Google something if you run out of airtime.
How? Yes. You're like standing on the side of the road. How to deal with an amputation?
Yeah.
One, do not panic. Yeah. So, but on that same level, so the next thing is connectivity and communication. You want to have something to charge your stuff with in your car. That's really important.
Even when your battery of your vehicle is run dry, because the power bank might also be something worth having inside.
Exactly.
Even though a lot of people think, no, just charge it with the car. Your battery dies of your phone and your car. What then?
A power bank is such a lifesaver in that circumstance.
Well, I've broken away from. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I found value in a power bank because I go camping a lot, and I've got a lot of camping stuff in my car. But I've bought a lot of rechargeable things, like a rechargeable headlamp or a
Yes.
rechargeable torch and everything like that. So I don't have to go buy batteries anymore. So I've got this really fat power bank that I always keep in my car. So if my headlamp or if my flashlight dies, not only I can charge my phone, but I can charge these items as well. So it's a universal charging station.
I love camping guys because they've always got this cool. I was at a campsite in January, and this guy had this fantastic solar thing that it was rolled. It looked like a towel that was rolled up, and he unrolled this little bank of solar cells.
No
and
way.
then it had, there's like a whole bunch of different connections that would fit onto phones or fit onto. You could charge all sorts of devices with it. And it was so wonderful to see a thing like that, and that gives you kind of, so long as you've got sun and an endless supply of energy.
But also think to fall in with what you said with regards to, let's say, that knife, right? So have things in your vehicle that you can use for other things. Like, for instance, my power bank can't just charge my phone. It can charge my headlamp and my flashlight and everything like that. I think you need to also keep an open mind, and instead of having different items and have like this, you don't want your car to look like you're going on holiday every single day. You want to streamline as well and be able to multi-use things, exactly like you said with just that pocket knife.
Yeah. And one of the most multi-usable items you can add to that car and to a bag is just cash. We've become so used to using cards and apps nowadays. But if you're in a very rural place and you don't have a phone because it's been taken away from you, or you need to buy a bottle of water, or you need to buy a lift, people may well not have a card machine, but you've got $50 in that car stashed away somewhere, where you've suddenly opened your options up for food, warmth, transport, communication.
Yeah.
So cash is still king, I'm afraid, and it's you need to have some cash stashed away somewhere. Uh, because you might have things that were taken away from you, and we've become so cell phone reliant. What happens when that thing's gone?
Yeah. And you also want to be able to, like, a lot of people aren't just going to allow you to use their phones. At least you say, hey, here's $20, dude. Can I just use your phone?
Exactly. So it opens a whole bunch of, you can catch a taxi with it. You can, it opens a whole bunch of options. It's such a great survival tool. I mean, there's a reason why when the SAS are deployed, they put gold sovereigns inside their belts, because it's something that you can buy something from wherever you are on the planet.
And I'm not universal currency.
Yeah. But which is obviously not applicable to everyday guys. But what is the lesson from that is have some cash because cash can buy you out of all sorts of situations.
Okay. Well, that you mentioned from what is the cash, you're mentioning things that a lot of people don't even think about keeping in their vehicles.
It's that, and the other essential tool, you mentioned it earlier, is a headlamp. And I don't know if you've ever tried to change a tire in the dark with a torch. So you've got that torch resting between your chin and your shoulder,
or in your mouth.
In your mouth, exactly. And you could have just had a headlamp, and it makes you so much more efficient, or you try to bandage someone, or it gives you an extra hand. So to me, that is an utterly essential thing. I think in whether it's a vehicle or a bag, there's two types of sources of light that you need. The one is a headlamp, because it gives you utility. It gives you the ability to repair, to be a hands-free person. And the second is some kind of a torch. And nowadays, very small torches can produce quite a large amount of light. And the torch gives you an ability to scan an environment. It gives you the ability to call for help, to flash people.
SOS.
It gives you the ability to warn, or to warn people, hey, slow down, there's a car accident here. Gives you...
then you don't have to head bang and so someone slow down.
Well, yeah. Or maybe the guy doesn't understand. Nowadays there's all sorts of different messages. One way of hitchhiking is with a thumb, and one is to wave your hand. Now the poor guy doesn't know what you mean, but a flashing light, he'll know. It will catch his attention. So that is just such an essential item.
What about another source of light for fire? Not necessary. So, what you say is how necessary is able to make fire?
So I like to call that general category warmth. And again, a bag or a car, I mean, it's amazing what you can do with a lighter. And part of warmth is also having a space blanket, by the way, because maybe you're going to be stuck on the side of the road for 3 hours before somebody comes to tow you, and it's going to be freezing. Or maybe you're dealing with an injured person or somebody that's gone into shock, or there's 101 uses for a nice shiny space blanket. It's a way of signaling for people, catching people's attention. It's a really, really useful item. In terms of actual fire, also just be careful of what people sell you in camping shops. You get this guy, he's like the camping shot geek, and he's got this cool flint and stick thing. And it looks fantastic. Have you ever tried to make a fire with one of those things?
With flint?
Yes.
It's like going back to the Stone Ages. It's like, why do I want to do that when I can just roll out my Zippo and I can have fire immediately? I mean, why do I want to backtrack?
Exactly.
I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here, guys.
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen some very cool survival gear. It's like a paracord bracelet with a compass and a flint thing. very nice. Try and use that thing without any practice. When you're freezing cold and you're in shock, it's not, again, it's something that it goes back to what your grandfather said.
Yeah.
Have you tried to use this thing? And because once we move from day-to-day ordinary life to crisis mode, our facility to achieve things on a macro muscular level is phenomenal. We can leap walls we could never leap over. We can lift things, we can carry people. But on a micro muscular intellectual level, the ability to remember small details and to use finicky things while you're shaking, and remember what sequence must this thing work in, and what you, and it goes out the window. So assume that, prepare for the fact that the items that you carry will be not when you're on your best game, but when you're on your worst game.
I think that also brings us back to familiarizing yourself with the items you have. Know how to use it. At least try it out, play around with it. I mean, open up your first aid kit. What is this? What is in this jar? What is it used for? And I think that's very important, because I think I've seen a lot of people, and I've got a couple of camping friends like this, and my version of camping versus their version of camping is two different versions, because they are overly equipped. They've got all of this gas things. Their Jeeps have got winches and all kinds of things, but some of the stuff they never use at all, ever.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
actually even they're kitted out for it, but they basically drive in Joburg, and all of their cars are constantly kitted with all of this stuff, but they don't camp enough for them to actually use half of that stuff as well. So familiarize yourself with what you are able to do, or what you want to do, or what you make use of, and instead of like over equipping yourself at the same time.
No, that absolutely. Although I have to confess to you that it's been a childhood dream to own a winch. And I've never needed one.
Same. I'm like, I'm making fun of these guys, but I'm so jealous at the same time. Like, you know what? I would put mine to use. I promise.
Yeah. Although at the end of the day, the $100 you stashed in your tire well will get you, probably got a far better chance of saving your life than the winch does.
Yeah. But the winch looks cool.
So though. It's, oh no, I'd love it. I don't know why. I don't know what I would do with it, but I would love it.
I just want someone to phone me to get them out of a ditch, and instead of
pulling
them out with my vehicle, I'll definitely use the winch. 100%.
Yeah, no, 100%. I have been pulled out of a ditch with a winch once, and it was basically humiliating, because we shouldn't have been there in the first place.
And if you had a winch, you could pull yourself out.
I could have.
So yeah, it kind of feels like you're emasculated.
There was nothing to anchor the winch onto anyway,
okay.
So it would have just all dressed up and no place to go,
Yeah.
So I think don't be cooled by don't be fooled by the bling of survival equipment.
But what would you say are things that people generally think are good ideas and are no-nos? You would think, like, the average person would think, hey, pepper spray is I'm just using a stupid example. Pepper spray is a good idea, but it's a no-no. People can use that against you, whatever. So what would you say are definite things that sound very cool, but can actually not be cool?
So pepper spray, I think, is pretty cool, but I think it goes back to what we were saying before. Have you ever tried to spray pepper spray? Have you gone out there into the garden and tested it?
Yes.
I've been in a few altercations where pepper spray has been used, and I've never not been got a whiff of it, or been sprayed by it, or affected by it.
Yeah, I never make use of it, because I am also part of the problem there.
Yes, but it could be a really useful tool if you've figured out, oh, this is the limitations of this. This is where it works. This is where it doesn't work. I want the directional stream one, not the one that makes fog, whatever the case is. But like pepper ball guns, people using pepper ball guns for self-defense, I have a huge problem with,
Mhm.
because it looks so much like a real firearm.
Yeah.
And therefore you have escalated a situation which might not have to have gone to a level of lethal force.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I am here to rob you. I didn't really want to hurt you, but I'm here to take your things, and I don't care about you, and I have no good intent. Now in the dark, you've suddenly produced something which looks very firearm-like and makes a loud bang. The chance of me actually, because I'm armed, using my gun against you, has gone up so much higher than
Mm.
if you hadn't
Oh,
had that thing,
damn.
you
Okay.
know. So I'm not keen on peppers, anything that looks like a firearm for self-defense that isn't a firearm. So I'm saying, if you're going to use a firearm for self-defense, then use a firearm and become good at using it and understand it. I'm all for that. And by the way, if you are a firearm person, and you have 15 rounds, you've got a bag now. So why not have 30 or 60 rounds? Because more bullets is better than less. But if you're not a firearm person and you're going to carry something for self-defense, carry something that does not look like a firearm. That the
Like a pepper
person,
spray or something, you can
I'm
actually
I'm a
just warn
criminal.
someone. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a criminal. I'm in fight or flight mode. My cognitive functioning is not in such good state at the moment. My heart is pumping. I'm full of adrenaline, and I do. There's a huge difference between the image of an aerosol can and the image of a firearm.
Yeah, because that criminal is not going to act out of logic. Let's all be
Yes,
honest with ourselves.
correct. So that for me is one of the biggest no-nos. And I admit I do have a problem with gear that looks tactical.
Yeah, I'm like that as well, because I'm thinking to myself, if you wearing some sort of tactical gear, someone doesn't know if you bought that thing just because you think it's cool, or if you ever have any personal training. So like you said earlier, you open yourself up to a plethora of possibilities of someone, is going to either take advantage of you or, come at you hot.
Yes, exactly. It's the coming at you hot. And when I'm walking down the street minding my own business, and a guy's now, he's running, he's just committed a robbery, he's panicking. The tactical look immediately equates, maybe I'm a security guy, maybe I'm part of the police, maybe I'm
Oh,
it's
yeah. Eliminate this person quickly before he eliminates me.
yeah. And so I'm saying, but there's a time and place for tactical. If I'm going out there
Mm.
um to do my job, I'm working in security, I'm working in some kind of first responder high stakes environment, by all means, that's part of identifying who you are, and carrying and wearing gear that's going to give you some or another kind of advantage. Go for it. I'm not saying, but if you're in civilian mode, I don't want to stick out.
If
I
you're in
want to
civilian
be
mode, be in civilian mode.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's it's exactly that, and it's the same. It's the same goes for people that put Apple stickers on their cars. Oh, what? So you're telling the guy in the car behind you that you are driving around with a 17,000 rand piece of electronic equipment. Well done. You know,
I'm sorry, but
I don't. I don't.
it's actually so funny if you say it like that, because you are just like everybody knows you get that Apple sticker with your phone. you know?
Yeah, yeah. Part of the branding, fantastic. but I don't want to brand myself as a target. And
Yeah.
if you look at, funny enough, actually, if you look at criminal cars, bad guys that drive the cars to do crime, they try to make those cars as nondescript and normal looking as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and there's good logic to that. They don't want to stick out. So learn a lesson from that. So I don't want to stick out, and I don't want to have anything that will have any visual impact that will escalate a situation against me.
I think if we can summarize this whole discussion with regards to civilian is we as everyday people, especially in South Africa, should actually try and gauge, when am I gonna look fancy? When am I gonna blend in? And when am I gonna wear what? Okay. So, and
Yes.
let's say I am coming from a party, perhaps going to the grocery store immediately after that party is not a good idea. I can perhaps do that tomorrow. Try and put that mindset in our minds before we actually go out and just do things, because we are so used to like, I might as well just go do that right now. But we don't actually like. Before speaking to you today, I didn't even realize. Let's say I come from a wedding. I'm wearing a nice dress watch. I'm wearing fancy clothes or whatever, and it's 12 o'clock at night, and I go to a dodgy petrol station because I just needed to go pee.
Yeah.
You don't really think about the implications, about that.
Yeah. You want to dress down as soon as you get out of that environment. Put the
Yeah.
watch in your pocket. I mean, there's a reason why there's been a phenomenon in Johannesburg for years called the Rolex gang. These were a bunch of guys that for years have targeted victims because they're walking around with 100 or 200,000 rand attached to their wrist. And why? Because it's just visually accessible. Um, that's why they exist. So I just want to, if I'm leaving that environment, and now I do need to go into the petrol station because I forgot to buy milk and I'm going to be in huge trouble. I'm going to just quickly modify my appearance a little bit. I might put away anything that looks too expensive.
Yeah. Take off
I
the
might
jacket, keep the phone in the car,
take off the
maybe.
jacket, put the old jacket on that's in the boot of the car,
Mm.
which is, by the way, a really nice thing to have, because that's another thing is something to keep you dry.
Yeah.
And you can go to pharmacies, by the way, these days and buy a very cheap, almost disposable poncho.
I saw them. They come like in this little keychain sized
That's it.
ponchos that comes in a tiny little ball. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
At the end of the day, there's nothing worse than being wet for a prolonged period of time. It's a
know
miserable
it.
experience.
It just makes whatever miserable situation you are in even more miserable.
Yes, I mean, I remember going on. You talk about camping. I remember going for a 5-day camping trip. It just decided to rain, and we didn't have any gear. So for 5 days, I was walking around with a rubbish bag over me. Like
feeling like rubbish.
Yeah, and it kind of worked, but it was a good idea, but it didn't work. By the way, we're also going to just talk tools. Go back to your granddad. Like, there's some tools that are like multi-usable. I do like multi-tools. It's got a screwdriver, a plier, a knife, something like that in your gear. Cable ties are phenomenal. You can make splints with them. You can repair things. You can tie people up with them if you have to. You can close an entrance so people can't get it. You can. It's a cable tie is a thing that just needs imagination.
Cable tie and insulation tape; those can almost fix anything.
Exactly. And then maybe you want to even put a bit of super glue in there, because you can deal with wounds with super glue, and you can repair things.
If you cut yourself, you can use it as like a what you call it, stitch replacement for the time being.
That's it. And I have to say, the other thing that I keep in my car that I've used a few times is like what's it called? Q20.
Spookbus.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
I knew I had a good brand name.
Ja,
Um,
Q20, ja. Ja,
it's
voordat jy jou moer strip.
exactly. Yes, yes, and you've got to. I mean, I was out with some people. They couldn't get the tire off their car because there was so much grit and dirt inside that tire, and the Q20 saved us there. And it fixes. I mean, it just fixes that with duct tape and cable ties. Like they are universal repairers, and you know, as I think, what was that movie? Evolution. The guy says, like, there's always time for lubricant.
And I can leave it to anyone else's imaginations, but yeah, there is always time for lubricant, no matter what the situation.
And then there's one more aspect to equipment that I want to just raise, and it's so relevant in the world of COVID. It's relevant to if you watch the stuff that's going on in the Ukraine, is that you might need something for psychological or spiritual support under crisis.
Ooh.
So if you're a religious person, it might be a Bible, or it might be, maybe you want to have a journal and a pen somewhere in your equipment that you can reflect. Maybe you're going to be isolated for a week, trapped in a room, and you're the only human being you're encountering. Maybe a little journal and a pen is really, you think of the diary of Anne Frank. It could be a really powerful thing that just gives you, and boredom is such a terrible thing under crisis. Long periods of waiting. You're going to have to stand in a line for 6 hours, and that's just going to wear you down. So maybe you want something
But
that's going to keep
also
you a
that
little
journal,
occupied.
that journal is actually very clever. I have one in my car. Well, it's just a little notebook, but sometimes I write things I want to remember. I'm sitting in a situation and I see a phone number, or I see, let's say you get in a car crash, or there's a hit and run. You want to
Yeah,
write down that number plate or anything
exactly.
like that, little quick things you want to remember. So that notebook, not only for psychological purposes, I mean, archiving is also very important. So that is one of those dual use items I didn't really think about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why every policeman is supposed to have a notebook, and that thing can get used for as evidence in court. Is what you can capture in there. So yeah, archiving really important, and capturing details of the guy you had a fender bender with or whatever. That's great, but also just if you're going to be isolated for a period of time, how are you going to keep yourself mentally sane? Or you're going to be a refugee. You're going to stand in a line for 10 hours. How are you going to keep your emotional balance up?
Damn.
And like there's an amazing survival story about a guy called Ernest Shackleton.
Yeah.
Who, I think it was 1918, maybe round about the time of World War I or just before. They go off as explorers to the South Pole, and his ship gets caught in pack ice and gets destroyed. And he's got like 27 guys that he kept alive for, I think, a period of 2 years. But what's really interesting about Shackleton is when he interviewed each member of the team, he had a whole bunch of questions which weren't work related. He wanted to know if you could sing, for example. And these were things that actually kept people's spirits up during those long, dark times. They had plays that they ran, and they sang songs, and they did things to keep their emotional well-being up, because emotional well-being has a huge impact on your physical well-being, your motivation, and your drive to continue, and your will to survive. So you might want to have something, and by the way, you might want to have equipment, urban equipment and outdoor equipment might be different. Maybe you want to, if you're a musician, you might want to pack a little harmonica in your bag,
or a ukulele.
Which a ukulele, something, yeah, or maybe if you want to have a Rubik's cube, or maybe,
Oh,
although that
nice.
would actually make me suicidal.
Why?
But because it frustrates me to no end, and I've never been able to complete one. Or maybe you're a Sudoku person and
Nice,
you
yeah.
like to solve
Puzzles,
puzzles.
yeah, or what do I call those with the words with the blocks? Um,
Yeah, crossword puzzles.
Crossword puzzles, yes.
Or maybe you just want to have in your kit a mirror so that you could see a face. When you're really going. Have you seen that movie with a Castaway with Tom Hanks?
Well, with Wilson,
Wilson, yeah.
yeah.
So you stuck the only he constructed a face because he needed a human something to interact with.
You know how you feel
Um,
about that Rubik's cube? I feel the same about the mirror because when I'm done
oh,
in the
okay.
dumps, the last thing I wanna look at is me crying. You know?
Oh, but and the point is, and you prove the point is that this and it goes back to the conversation with your granddad, is
Yeah,
that
what's relevant to
you
you? Yeah.
customize the stuff, you make this appropriate to yourself.
You made a really interesting point with this now because I have watched a movie and it's one of my favorite movies because I really like philosophy. You know, philosophy is one of my
Yeah.
favorite topics to talk about along with psychology. And it's about this philosophy class and for their final philosophy exam, the teacher posed a situation where he gave each one of the students occupation. You're a farmer, you are a artist, you are an engineer, and he gave everybody occupations. And he said, okay, there's 30 people in the class, and now the end of the world is impending right now, and there's a bunker, and we can only take 10 people in the bunker. Who do you take? So,
Whoa.
yes. So, first, everybody was looking at the doctors, the engineers, and everything like that. So, all of the people to rebuild, the very right
Yes.
brain type people. And each scenario that they posed, for instance, with regards to procreating again and all of those scenarios, always posed a problem because there isn't any creative outlet where basically the crux of the movie is musicians and artists and poets were just as important as the engineer, as the doctor as well, for keeping that spirits up. Because if you put too much right brain people in one room for an extended period of time, that will also explode in everybody's face.
Yes. 100%. So I mean, the other scenario like that was it was in one of the, I think one of the last books of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and there was this civilization called the Gographintians, and
Yes, I love it.
they decided to rid themselves of 2/3 of the useless part of their population. So they got all the scientists and all the clever people, and they put them on a spaceship, um, and shipped them off to another planet, and like neglected, I think it was the telephone sanitizers or something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous, something
Oh no,
like.
no, they shipped off all the useless people. That's what they did. They got rid of
Yeah,
all
they
the
they they got rid
marketing
of all
guys,
of the people off of the planet. Yes.
and then they died from a virus contracted from a dirty telephone.
and everything has got the irony of it,
Exactly. Yeah.
but also now we speak about grab bags and toolkits and everything like that. How do I choose what to put in? And like, I don't want to not have a headlamp and then I die because no one sees me. So, but I think the question I want to pose is, let's say let's take the car out of the element and a bag out of the
Ah.
element.
Okay.
I am Mr. Gray walking down the road. We've already
Yes.
established a multi-use knife is already a very cool thing to have. But let's say, what else is one thing before we, sign off with regards to this podcast, um, apart from our souls, that we can
Yes.
carry along with us in the day to day, especially in South Africa, that won't drag too much attention, which is easy to carry, which might be a really good thing to have handy in a fight or flight situation.
So I mean, my initial knee-jerk response that is before a knife is probably like a multi-tool, because it could be used as a weapon, a tool, and this and that. But I'd like to pose a different, a little thought experiment that everybody listening to can do.
Okay.
Okay, so I used to do this with, I was once commissioned to do to train a bunch of pilots, and are you still there, Carl?
Yeah. I'm listening.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
sorry. No, something changed on my computer, and I didn't know what happened.
Okay,
Okay,
never mind.
so I was once commissioned to do a whole bunch of training for some pilots that used to fly a route over Africa, and it was like, we want you to do a lecture on survival for these guys. And I said, okay, cool. So how much time have you got? And they said, well, 35 to 45 minutes.
Damn. Okay.
And I phoned this guy from the Special Forces Training School for some advice. And he was like, yeah, no, for sure. 3 weeks, we can do this training. And I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. I've got 30 minutes, not 3 weeks.
Yeah. Let's minus that with 3,000%.
So I developed this exercise, and and this is something everybody can do. So imagine think of the Castaway story, Tom Hanks.
Yes.
You're in a plane and you crash, and you crash land on your island, and all you've got is the stuff that's on your person right now. So if you start to empty your pockets, maybe you've got car keys and a wallet and a cell phone and some cash. And you've got a belt around your pants and a pair of socks and shoes or shoelaces. I don't know what you've got when you go out and you haven't geared yourself. Just think of the stuff you got out because you went to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Pack that stuff out on the table and now start to think, what else could I do with these things? Could I fill my socks with gravel to filter some water? Could I tie somebody up with my belt? Or could I whip somebody with my belt? Or could I pull myself up a tree using my belt? What could I do with my credit cards? Could I reflect something with my credit cards? Could I sharpen the edge and cut with it? What could I do with my cell phone? And there's no signal. Could I take it apart? What could I reflect? Again, has it got reflective surfaces? Has it got something that could be burnt? Could I use the case to carry something? Could I use and what I'm trying to get out of this exercise is that the greatest resource is the opportunistic mindset. It's the mindset that sees things and turns those things into something more. Yeah. And that's far better than any bag or any tool, or any gun or any. It's critical. It's the most important piece of survival tool you can have.
I think that is basically the best thing, that sums up this whole entire discussion is, how I build that toolbox, or how I build that, grab bag, or the things I keep in my car. That's basically my perspective of survival, reflected right onto that, and that, and being able to be aware of things. You know what? A lot of people are completely oblivious to the fact that they are gonna be refugees at any point of time. And and this is a really sad situation, but so true. I saw a beggar the other day, a lady, and she's wearing some nice clothes, and you can see the necklace around her neck. Used to be a nice necklace, and she's wearing a Guess shirt with like I can see that used to be nice jeans. But I don't think that lady thought that outfit that she wore that day is probably going to be the outfit that she'll wear for the rest of the time. So something like your house burning down or whatever can make you homeless instantly. She didn't plan to be homeless that day. So just her outfit she had on, I can see she used to be semi-wealthy, and now she's begging on the side of the road. I can see that it's not like and it's freshly, like I assume she's freshly homeless, because the clothes kind of semi looks nice. It's not dirty or anything, but I don't think that
Mm,
lady thought that that will be that the clothes I'm putting on this morning, this afternoon, this will be the only clothes I have, right?
wow,
So we
that's
are,
profound.
right? So now we need to train our brains, like exactly like you're saying, what I'm wearing or how I'm going out in the world, what can I use in order to survive, or having extra, just let's say saving extra cash to get in a situation so I can go to family. Let's say all she needed to do was to get a bus back to Pretoria, then she wouldn't have been
Right,
homeless. People, she's been
right.
traveling to Cape Town, yeah, she has got no way to get home. Stupid situations like that, just thinking ahead, because we are so quick to think these things will never happen to us. And it's that what you're talking about, which actually gives me goosebumps just to think about it, because let's say that lady had that mindset of, what, this can happen to me, and that $1,000 at the back of my car or in my pocket, or that extra tool I had could have avoided this situation where the clothes I put on this morning is the only clothes I have. So yeah, I think that is the most important tool that anyone, and this sounds so cliche for saying it out loud, is our minds.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It kind of. Well, I suppose cliches exist because they also carry truths.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
But yeah, I just think
so
so but you talking about that survival and I literally only saw that lady last week. So what you're saying and what I saw brings this whole discussion together for me all in one sentence, basically. So that half an hour you had, you basically put it down into one sentence for me.
that's that's the most important thing. And so now go put it into an experience as well. Like do the exercise and have the experience, and maybe do it once or twice. The second time, put yourself under pressure. So see what it's like when you've only got 10 minutes to figure this out.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about a burning house, you might only have 30 seconds or a minute
Yeah.
to make a plan. But if we've trained our brain to make that plan and to find opportunities, um, there's an incredible part of the brain called the reticular activating system, and its job is to filter relevant things into the mind. And if we can train that part of the brain to find the relevant things that are going to keep us going, we're so much better for it. But we have to have had that conversation the first time around,
Yeah.
you know.
Perhaps
And
every
that's the realization of seeing that woman, that conversation. Oh, here's a slice of reality that I need to consider.
perhaps like kidnap
What?
your friends, go drop them off in the desert, just see how long
Yeah,
they'll last.
yeah, yes, or even worse, your family.
Yeah.
Um, or some family members, you might just leave them there. But
My mom will kill me.
yeah.
So, Jason, before we go, and like I usually do, if you have absolutely one thing to say to the world out there, absolutely anyone listening, what would it be? Hello?
I would say there's something I read in a book when I was a teenager that stuck with me, and I'd like everybody to think about it. So the question was it was about two guys in a martial arts fight, and there were two lines, and the question was, how do I make my line longer than the other line? And the answer was, rather than cutting the other line in half, make my line longer. And that's what I'd like to leave people with, is lengthen your line.
Instead of trying to cut other people's.
Exactly. Build your skills, build your resources, explore, make your line longer.
Jason, it is an absolute honor to have you on another one of my episodes. I would just like to thank you for every little bit of wisdom that you shared with me and everybody listening out there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having another one with you. And I would just like to say, all of the best on your side. And yeah, go out, outwit, outplay, survive.
Yeah. And when you can't do that, make friends. How about that?
Yes. If you can't do that, make friends in the process.
Yeah.
But thank you,
Yeah.
Jason. You should have a wonderful evening. And thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you for your time. It was great. I'll be back. I'll be
Cheers.
back. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.